Hi, Kevin here. In this video, we will explore parametric blocks in BricsCAD. You'll learn how to create them, how to modify them, you'll see what's cool about them, and how they differ from dynamic blocks that you typically find in AutoCAD. Parametric blocks are blocks which contain not only pure geometry, but also some metadata. This metadata affects the geometry of the block, for example, the size or dimension of the geometry and its visibility. The metadata controls the way the components of the block behave. What this means is that the size and appearance of a parametric block can be modified without editing the block definition itself. Let's explore this by opening a couple of files, one called Dummy Floor Plan and another called Door Start. The Dummy Floor Plan gives us something to test our new blocks in, and the Door Start file will be where we start adding visibility states to our door. Let's start by adding visibility states to the door. From the ribbon, go to the Parametric tab, and to the far right, we find the Parametric Blocks panel. Next, select the Visibility States panel. The Visibility States panel opens. There are currently no visibility parameters defined, and no states present because there are no parameters currently defined. To create a new visibility parameter, we select the blue circle with a plus in it at the bottom right of the panel. It gives the visibility state parameter a default name. Let's call this one Swing. Now, we need to define the different states or visibility options for the swing parameter. So let's go ahead and select Add State, and we'll start by creating the state for the open door. So just call this Open and hit Enter. Next to Open, when you hover over the panel, we can see that there are three dots representing a drop-down menu. And from the drop-down menu, you can choose the option Make Entities Visible. We need to select the full 90-degree open arc and the vertical line representing the full door. Those are the entities that we want to appear when we choose the open visibility state. We want to create another visibility state for when it's half open. So select Add State again. This time, name it Half Open. And now, when we pick this menu, it will select that parameter. Notice the half open geometry now disappears because we're now working in the half open state. Again, select Make Entities Visible and select the 45-degree arc representing a half open door and select Enter to complete your selection. In the Visibility States panel, if we select Open, only those lines show. And Half Open, only that line work shows. We have one more state to add, and that's for a closed door. So call this one Closed. But we don't have to select any geometry because we want this rectangular panel to show up in all states. So we don't select it for any of the states. Now, if we select Closed, none of the open or half open geometry appears. Now that we finished editing our block, let's save it with a different name. We can save this in the same folder, and instead of calling it Door Start, let's call it Door Visibility. So now we can store this block in our library. There's a library that comes with every license of BricsCAD, and we can add components to it like this door. And we can also create new categories or folders to store this geometry. Let's go to the panels on the right and go to the library panel and open it. We can see the different folders or categories of components that are already stored. There is one for doors, but these are 3D doors. And in our case, we want one that's for 2D doors. So when we add this object to our library, we will also create a new folder for it at the same time. To do this, go to the library, select the blue button with the plus on it in the bottom right-hand corner. When the dialog comes up, select the entire drawing. As a good practice, we're going to give it the same name as we gave it when we first saved the file. So we're going to call it door_visibility. Now we can either create or choose a category. So if we pick in this field and start typing in door, notice it's trying to match to one of the pre-existing categories. So let's pick outside of that list and continue to edit and call it 2D. This folder doesn't already exist, so it will be created on the fly. We do want it to create it in the same components folder as the remaining library components, so select the Create button. We can see that the new folder appears here. It's often a good idea to go to the menu at the top of the library panel and select the Generate Thumbnails command to help make sure that it has created a representation of this new door in that Door 2D folder. So when we open the Door 2D, we should see the door visibility file. If we go back to the floor plan, we can select this door visibility block, and it allows us to place it anywhere in our drawing. So right now we haven't defined an insertion point that would help us position it, but if we place this block, we can then give it a scale factor for X, Y, and rotation and place the block. Let's go back to the door visibility file and close this file. Now let's edit the version of this that we saved in the library. We're now going to add reference curves to this block to help us place it inside the line work representing the walls of this floor plan. When we hover over the tile or the button for this tool, a little menu button appears. Notice that one of our choices is to open this for editing. So let's select this. This is our block. It's showing the same visibility parameters because it's the same block that we edited. Let's go ahead and save this for good measure before we start editing further. Now let's go back to the Parametric tab, go to the Parametric Blocks tab, and pick the Reference Curves tool. Let's select the 4 horizontal lines that represent the wall that the door is being placed in and select Enter. Notice that the color of these lines have changed. If we go to the Layers panel, we can see that there is a new layer called Reference Curves. If we turn the display of this layer off, those lines turn off. Now that we have these reference lines added, let's save this block with a new name. So go back to the File menu and select Save As. This will save it to the same folder that we created originally when we saved the door visibility. This time, let's call this door visibility _ ref curves. Notice the reason we need to refresh the thumbnails is because it doesn't automatically do it for us. So we hit Generate Thumbnails twice for good measure, and now we'll open Door 2D and 2 things have happened. When we opened the file Door Visibility to edit it and saved it, It just ensured that the visibility settings were saved properly to this block in the library. And the new block appears now. And they both have this circle with a little FX on it, meaning that it's parametric. It doesn't tell us what parametric function it has, but it does tell us that it is a parametric block. So let's go back to the floor plan. Select the door visibility block, and when we move it into view, notice that instead of showing the white lines, it's showing guide curves like what we see when we use copy guided and move guided. Now, when we move it over the walls on the interior of the building, it's not matching the width. But when I go to the exterior walls, it does. And I can flip this on either side of the wall and place it very easily and very quickly. So let's go ahead and add some additional behavior to this. We want to be able to select this after we placed it and maybe change which side of the door it's swinging from, so the hinge side, or maybe we want to change the flip so it's swinging into the building instead of out of the building. If we go to its properties, it currently has no option for us to do that. Right now, it just has the swing option, which allows us to change it to half open or closed. So we're going to go back to door visibility ref curves. As a best practice, just save it one more time. Now we're going to add the flip lines. We'll close the visibility states dialog since we're not using that anymore. Go to the parametric tab on the ribbon. Go to the parametric blocks and go to flip line. Now we're going to create two flip lines. The first one will be a flip line representing the hinge side of the door. So let's snap to the midpoint of this door panel and then draw a line vertically, holding the shift key to ensure that it's perfectly vertical. And then we're prompted to give this flip line a name. So let's call this hinge side. Again, if we go to the layers panel, we can see that there is a new flip line layer. And when we turn the display off, the green line goes off. As we can see, BricsCAD automatically categorizes items when using these tools and creates the layers needed for them. Let's create one more flip line. Go back to the parametric blocks and the flip line tool, and we're going to go ahead and create one that is horizontal. So let's snap to the midpoint of the door panel and run this horizontally to the other side. When asked for a name, we're going to call this wall side and hit enter. So now we have two flip lines. We can flip it in two directions. Let's do a save as on this since we made changes to it. We'll call this one door underscore visibility underscore ref curves underscore flip. Back in the library menu, don't forget to generate thumbnails. Let's go back to the floor plan and let's go to our door 2D folder. And now we have a new block, door visibility ref curves flip. Keep in mind, you can turn off the display of the flip lines and reference curves when you're finishing up these blocks, but for now, we'll just leave them on. Let's place this again and see how we can snap it to the outside walls. And now, if we select this block and go to its properties, we can switch it just by changing it from not flip to flip. If we want even more functionality, we can add the ability to stretch some of the geometry. The stretch parameter works like the stretch command. In this case, the stretch parameter can replace several constraints to help simplify the drawing and the process of parameterizing the geometry. So once again, let's save this block. And we'll zoom in on the door panel. Close the Properties panel and go back to the Parametric tab on the ribbon. Select Parametric Blocks, and this time we'll select Stretch. The Stretch command is asking us to define a base point of displacement and a second point which defines the direction. So we're going to snap it to the top left-hand corner of the door panel as our first point, and then the bottom left-hand corner of the door panel to define the direction. See how BricsCAD is asking us to construct a stretch frame? A stretch frame will be a rectangle that will go around the geometry that we want to be edited. So let's zoom in. We don't want to snap to something by accident, and place a box around the geometry, effectively defining what it wants to grab, and stretch with this box, and then hit enter once you're good with that. We're asked to name this stretch parameter, so we're going to call it thickness. Going to our layers panel again, we see that there is now a parametric stretch layer. To recap, it's creating the layer that we need as we use the tool. So let's save this file again. Let's name this one Door Visibility Ref Curve Flip Stretch. Go back to the library panel, go back to the library menu, and generate thumbnails again, twice just to be safe. Now let's go back to the dummy floor plan file, go to the Door 2D folder, and we have our new block. Pick that block and go ahead and place it in the wall on the right. We can see the line that represents the stretch vector. If we select this block now and go to its properties and go down to parameters, we have a new thickness parameter. So we can type in a new value and make that a thicker door panel. There's a new parametric feature that allows us to add what's called a fuzzy or flexible nature to the reference curves. So let's start out with the block that we were last editing, saving it again for good practice. Go back to the Parametric tab on the ribbon and to the Parametric Blocks panel and pick Reference Curves again. This time at the command line, we're going to hit P for parameterize. So type in P and hit enter. Next, let's use the coincident geometric constraint, but we're going to use the A for auto constraint option from the command line. Then just pick a window around the intersection of the bottom left horizontal reference curve and the vertical line representing the door opening. Doing this automatically applies a coincident constraint to those lines. Continue doing this 3 more times. Coincident, A for auto, create a little box around that intersection and hit enter. Once that is complete, we now have coincident relationships between the horizontal and vertical lines of the door opening. If we go to our parameter and constraints dialog, we can see that there's some new constraints for offset and angle. If we right-click on one of these offsets and select animate, you can see that the reference curve and the endpoint of the door move together. Let's do a little cleanup on the layers. Go ahead and freeze the flip lines, freeze the parametric stretch, freeze the reference curves, and go ahead and hide the geometric constraints. Do another save as. This time we'll call it Door, Visibility, Ref Curves, Flip, Stretch, Fuzzy. Back in our floor plan file, we can go to the Door 2D folder, select the last block that we created, grab it, and bring it in. Notice that it will snap to the outside walls, and now it also snaps to the inside walls. Again, we still have our flip, we still have our stretch. So we can still make those adjustments with the other parameters that we've added. And now we have a block that's very parametric and has a lot of functionality. As you can see, there's a lot of functionality with parametric blocks in BricsCAD. You can create different visibility states and then add it to your block library. So why not check it out and try it for yourself? Take advantage of a free 30-day trial and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.